put this slide together, and everyone in this room knows that 70% of kids are quitting sports by the age of 13. I don't want the next 7 to happen. Why are they quitting? I'm going to give you some personal anecdotes, and hopefully I don't break down, because some of these anecdotes are pretty sad. It goes back to when I was in my second year of coaching hockey with 6-year-old kids. And that's when I started finding out when kids were quitting. It was actually relative to the year that he had. In my first year coaching hockey, it's all fun. There's not any games, the kids are just working on their skills, and we had a blast. The son had a great year. Second year, he was actually called up, moved up a division. So in hockey, basically they have 4 levels, and initially they have hockey 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So he is 6-year-old, he actually got called up to hockey 3 because he was already a pretty proficient skater, as did 2 other kids. They were placed on different teams. And then we played the season. He had a great season. The following year when we formed teams, those 3 players all stayed in the same age group. So he played 2 years of hockey 3. About 2 weeks into the season, my wife came to me. She said, I was just talking to the mother of one of the other players who happened to be on our hockey 1 team the year before. And she said, she's kind of bummed out that he didn't get placed on your team because he really enjoyed playing with you. He had a lot of fun. It's great to hear that the kid had fun. But then she asked me if I could ask the other coach a question. I said, what do you want me to ask him? She doesn't want to make a big deal of it. She doesn't want to come to you. But can you ask him if he will play games? I went, are you kidding me? This is hockey 3. It's like, yeah, they're going to play games. Well, the reason she's asking, he didn't play last year. 6 years old. The coach thought it was more important to win games. And the reason he didn't play is that he thought he was too small. There's no contact in hockey 3. There's no contact in hockey 2. And they push contact all the way to the bantam. But this kid didn't get to play. The coach did everything he could to get him back on the horse and bring his confidence back. Unfortunately, he quit after that year. So it only lasted 3 years. A couple of years later, I found out about a kid that had filed a fair ice complaint against our association when he was playing on our Adam A1 team as a second-year player. He wasn't getting power play time, wasn't getting penalty kill time. The coach was running short benches. He was doing everything to win. In the Adam age group, 9-10 years old, he was doing systems and strategies that should have been pushed way beyond that. It got so ugly that the parents threatened legal action against the association. That coach ended up leaving the association, moving on to another association. That kid ended up playing hockey. He quit hockey that year. He actually did come back a year later. So when he was second-year Pee Wee, he actually was on a team that my son was on. When he came to the tryouts at the beginning of the year, he was on eggshells. He was so nervous. It was unbelievable. I could tell that year just beat him up. Spent the better part of the year getting him to smile again because he used to love the game. We did everything we could, but he quit hockey after that year. The damage was done. 2 years later, I ran into a parent of one of the kids I called up for a tournament when I coached in Adam. He was a hockey 4 player, amazing skill, and he got an opportunity to play with his brother. They were 3 years apart, so they never would have been able to play together before. And I said, so how did it go? I heard that he got onto a really strong spring program. He said, it didn't go very well. I said, what do you mean it didn't go very well? He said, he quit. He quit spring? No, he quit hockey. I said, what? He was 12 years old. He quit hockey because the coach screamed at the top of his lung, literally at every ice session, at every game, at every practice, criticized their mistakes. I could keep going on and on and on about the kids I heard about in hockey, and I'm just going to touch on the Bantam A1 year that my son had. We had a coach that thought winning at all costs was the only reason why it was all about. It was all important to win games. After that season, 6 players from that team did not return to our association. 6 quit. Quit hockey. My son was one of them. And it really was kind of an eye-opener for me, and it's kind of what set the wheels in motion for me to be here today. So I can totally relate to the reasons why kids quit. The number one reason they're quitting, it's no longer fun. And a lot of people have given me kind of a bad rap because they think I'm a kumbaya guy and it's all about fun, 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 fun. But I'm probably one of the most competitive people on the planet. I hate losing. I really don't like to lose. But I will never sit a kid to win a game. You win or lose as a team, period. I think short benches is that a lot of coaches are implementing is probably the laziest thing that coaches can do, because all they're doing is relying on their strong players, and then the weaker players never get an opportunity to develop. The number one reason why kids are quitting is because of the adult criticism. This is a short video with Ray Winstone in it, and you could look at it in two perspectives. It's kind of taking the spin from the parent side, but I just want to touch base on the whole parent criticism, the coach criticism. There's only about 5 to 10% of the parents that are creating the havoc for the kids. We call them the vocal minority. Same holds true with coaches. 5 to 10% are what spoiling the broth for kids, but now we've got 70% of kids are quitting by 13. Imagine a coach, because I've seen this in a coach perspective, but also from a parent perspective.
Open your eyes! My old woman can referee this campaign!
Listen to this muppet. Every week he does this, screaming and shouting at the ref.
Ref! Ref! That's a yellow card, ref! Card him! Yellow card him, ref! Card him! How are these kids supposed to learn the game if you don't know the game? He's an animal! Give him a
Look at him, the
yellow
ref.
2.7.
But he gives up his Saturday mornings to do this. Now, was it the right decision? It might have been, it might not have been. Who knows? We all make mistakes.
You mug!
Would you take this at work? Nah.
Okay, thank you.
No,
Could you
don't thank me, thank you!
just clear the
You're a
playing area,
clown.
please?
You ain't got a clue! Clown!
You see, Dad's trying to live out his own dreams through his son.
Did it! What's the matter with you? That's a suicidal
And how's he supposed to learn
Rosie!
if he can't make his own mistakes?
Referee, you're not watching the game, mate. You're watching me. You ain't gonna see nothing here.
It's no wonder we're losing so many refs when they're having to put up with people like Jet the Biscuit here every week.
Come on, Stevie! You're running about like a chicken with no eggs. Liven it up!
And it's no wonder thousands of kids give up the game either. We carry on like this, we won't have a game left.
Ref! Ref?
Some of us need to take a long, hard look at ourselves.
That video was done in the UK. One of the top actors in the UK, Ray Winstone, played that role of the parent. The issues that we're having in youth sports are not just inherent to Canada, not just inherent to hockey. It's a global problem. Everywhere across the world, we're having the same challenges, and we need to bring it back to the kids. Another reason why it's not fun, coaches are running short benches, and I don't need to beat that one up. But when I heard it from my senior high school rugby team, where over half of the players said they hated it when coaches were playing their favorites, it was very reminiscent of looking back. And that's what kind of tweaked me on that whole 6-year-old analogy, that every time I tell that story, I break down. It just kills me that a 6-year-old never got to play a game. It's also not fun because it's no longer safe for them to fail. Coaches think nothing of screaming at the top of their lungs at the kid because they made a mistake. And the impact they're having on those kids is detrimental for the rest of their lives. They should be following things like the growth mindset, which Danielle Kabush will be talking about tomorrow, and praising effort, encouraging them to make mistakes. Parents have always thought I've been a little odd because I actually say before the game, okay guys, go out there, make lots of mistakes and have fun. And they go, you really want them to make mistakes? Yeah. Because when they make mistakes, they develop. When they make mistakes, they become creative. When they make mistakes in a positive environment and they do it in no fear, they get better. And every single team that I've ever coached early in the season, when we struggle, but at the end of the season in our tiers, we've always dominated because the kids flourish from an environment where no one's going to scream at them. Why do you think they play video games to the extent they play video games? Because if they die in a video game, what do? They push the reset button and they keep playing. And who's not hanging over their head? There's no coaches, no parents, there's no referees. They just play, and if they fail, if they die, they hit the reset button and they keep playing. Early specialization. Don't get me started on the whole thing. I have no idea for the life of me how this phenomenon is taking ground and continues to gain ground, because it's absolutely the wrong way to go. As a former multi-sport athlete, a multi-sport coach, and knowing that all the elite coaches in the world, they want to recruit athletes, not specific hockey players or soccer players, it's the wrong path. It's not fun for kids when they are forced to play year-round starting at 7 years old, not being able to do anything else but that sport. Give you some data that's the dead set reason why it's wrong. The Alberta Lacrosse, I told you I spoke on behalf of changing the game in the fall, and they shared with me retention studies, that report they had put together because they were concerned about their lack of retention. They were getting lots of kids into the game, but almost for every kid they got in, they were losing. Over the course of 3 years, from 2014 to 2016, they lost just over 11,000 players, about 3,700 a year. So they sent out surveys, and they got 1,000 families to come back and respond to the surveys. And the top three other reasons why they were quitting, the number one reason was for them to focus on another sport. Starting at 7 years old, 33% of the players were dropping out of lacrosse to focus on hockey. 33%. Staggering. They were also quitting because of a lack of fair play policies, short benches, and they were dropping out because of poor sportsmanship. Aspen Institute Project Play has done some great work trying to help get things back on track. This is a poster that was put together with them and USA Tennis as they got all of their partner NSOs in the US to endorse the benefits of multi-sport participation versus early specialization, mainly because of the detriments of early specialization. Kids that play year-round burn out. 70% of the kids, I imagine, the majority of them are kids that are in specialization. They're also suffering overuse injuries because they're doing the same repetitive motion over and over and over again. And they're lacking fundamental movement skills. I talked to somebody last year who knew her son went to Finland for a hockey camp. He came back from Finland, he said, it was a great experience, but he shared with his mother that they're all motor morons, meaning they can only play hockey. They couldn't kick a ball, they couldn't throw a ball, they had difficulty running. When they fell down, they had trouble getting up when they weren't on skates. A lot of the core fundamental skills that we learn as kids, they couldn't do because all they had done is focus on hockey since they were like 4 years old. Now here are some of the overuse injury statistics. Since 2002, there's been over a 400% increase in ACL surgeries between the ages of 10 and 17. An ACL tear is a pretty major injury, and there's no way a 10-year-old should get it. Probably about 50% of those are girls that are focusing on soccer year-round because they're chasing the NCAA scholarship. Now over 50% of the Tommy John surgeries, which are meant originally to extend the playing career of a major league pitcher into his 30s, are being done on teenagers between the ages of 15 and 18. Google John Smoltz's Hall of Fame acceptance speech was about 35 minutes, and you'll find 1 minute where he goes on an actual rant about Tommy John surgeries. There's no way a kid should be getting it. The most recent example to share with you, Roberto Osuna, who's a pitcher with the Blue Jays. Last year in the pennant race, he had Tommy John surgery when he was 18. At 21 years old, he had to pull himself out of a game because his elbow was sore. It doesn't make them superhuman. And the other one is a 200% increase in concussions in middle school age groups between the ages of 9 and 12. That's the very reason why USA Hockey and Hockey Canada pulled body checking out of all levels of recreational hockey, and they deferred it to the bantam age group because 11 and 12 is peewee. And the research was showing that brains were still developing, and they needed to push it to a later date. 200% increase. TD Ameritrade did a study, and this is more to share with parents. But I found it very interesting because they surveyed, I'm not sure what the total sampling was, but they're really concerned that their clients were not investing for their retirement. And they asked them, where are you spending your money? And a lot of parents are coming back, a lot of our disposable income is going towards youth sports. 43% of them said that it was too expensive because they were spending on average of $500 per child per month. The average household in the US was 2. So $12,000 a year they were spending on youth sports. But here's where it gets really wonky. Because of their expectation for a return on investment, 67% of the parents were expecting their kids to get an athletic scholarship, NCAA. 47% expecting them to play professionally. 34% go to the Olympics. The percentage is, for all of those is less than 1%. The percentage I share with NHL in hockey is 0.03. 0.03% of the kids that play hockey have an opportunity to go to the NHL. And that's what's driving appeals. And I've talked to several hockey associations. They now have parents appealing releases from A1, which is AAA, down to A2, which is like AA, because they're concerned that their kid's not going to be scouted at 9. Scouts don't start looking at players until they're at least 12, 13 years old, and it's skewed in the West because we do our draft 1 year earlier than the East. Another reason is the ride home. I can't imagine being a kid. This is with True Sport. There's also another great one. I just can't imagine a kid going through this with a parent. And one thing I share with a lot of parent coaches, make sure that when you get in the car, especially when you leave the facility, you take your coach hat off and you put your parent hat off. You're on. The same holds true when you get home. Please don't coach your kids, and don't definitely do this when you're in the car.
So, not your best practice. Can we agree on that? It seemed like you wanted to hang out with your friends more than practice. And that's fine if that's what you want to do. You know, just tell me. Because you can do that anytime. Maybe we can skip your next game. Because choosing to waste your time, that's one thing. But wasting my time and your coach's time? That's selfish. You don't care about other people. You don't care about hard work. You don't care about teamwork. That's why you're always on the bench, every time it matters. Your coaches think you're selfish too. Your hockey coach, your soccer coach, your football coach, everyone does. So, if you want to keep playing, you need to take a good hard look at yourself and think about that.
The ride home should actually be a positive experience. When my kids we've gotten in the car, whether I've coached softball with my daughter or my son with hockey or whatever sport we were playing, first thing I would say to them, did you have fun? Yep. Okay, good. I really loved when you did this. There's always a highlight moment that they do in a practice or a game. That's what I was zeroing on. It could be something as simple as kicking a puck 4 feet to get the puck out of the zone. That was a highlight moment. And then I asked them, what do you want for a snack? That's it. That's the extent of the story. One of my favorite rides to and from is when my daughter was in the provincials. And she would ask me as we were heading, has anybody ever been to Salmo? Anybody in this room been to Salmo, the Kootenays? No? I had to go there twice. 2 provincials in Salmo. My daughter always like, Dad, I couldn't believe it. We had to go there twice. How Salmo got the provincials twice is beyond me. Salmo is way up on a summit, and I'm not a big fan of driving cliffs, especially when there's no concrete barricades. And we end up driving up this summit, and I'm holding on the steering wheel. I'm like, oh my. And my daughter says to me, Dad, can we listen to the music? Can we listen to Liam's CD? And I went, sure. She then goes, turn it up loud, turn it up louder. So that got me through that summit drive. And then she asked me after the game, can we listen to the CD the whole weekend? That's all we did in the car. And I'll never forget how much fun it was for her, how much fun it was for me. And I was there just that whole weekend with my daughter. It was really cool. No one talks about officials' attrition, but I'm just going to touch on it. Officials in Canada, in Hockey Canada, there's over 30,000 are registered in their Hockey Canada registry every year. But every year they lose 10,000. 1/3 of their officials quit. 1/3. Referees and chiefs that I've talked to in clinics have shared with me they actually lose half of their referees in the first 3 years. They start at 12, they're done at 15. 50% of them are gone. That's what contributed to 33%. But the worst extreme that I come across is when Calgary Soccer lost 70% of their first-year officials in 2010. They ended up implementing a program called Field Marshals, where they gave armbands to parents to just monitor the sidelines and basically do what those kids did earlier in New Zealand, shush, bring it down. The number one reason why they're all quitting, the adult criticism they're receiving, parents and coaches.